Hello, I hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to be doing another comparison video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the three different Ryu figures from SOTA Toys, Jada Toys, and Storm Arena. So some of you watching may be familiar. I've done this video already with Sagat a couple weeks ago, and I've done it with Ken. And I wasn't too sure if I would do a video for Ryu because obviously he shares a lot of parts with the Kens. But there are a couple of differences that I thought would be worth pointing out, and frankly, I just kind of wanted to do it. I figured I would enjoy it, and isn't that what it is really all about in the first place? Doing what you enjoy, because this is a hobby that is supposed to be fun. I think some people may forget that sometimes. So here we are, we've got the Ryus. Before we look at the figures themselves, we're going to be taking a look at the packaging. All I have today is the Storm Arena packaging. I have since discarded the package for Jada, and I bought the SOTA loose. So let's pull back. Here we've got the Storm Arena packaging. Just kind of a nice square package. A lot of dark colors. A little minimalist, but you can still see some of the, I guess, retro 8-bit. It's probably not 8-bit, but little squares, pixels. Here we've got this big artwork of Ryu in the bottom right corner, and that takes up most of the window. We've talked about this, kind of a smaller window. You wouldn't really be able to see the figure and all of his accessories too well because of the plastic and the smaller window, unless you wanted to take the figure out and remove the plastic, which then makes the value go down after you open it. On the back, we've got all the different poses and stuff, some artwork of Ryu at the top, and all of that there. So we're familiar with that. If you want to hear me talk about the Jada and the SOTA packaging, well, I do that in my other videos, other comparison videos. So go check those out. I'll link those. And so you'll kind of have a more complete idea about the differences across the line and not just with these figures in particular. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at what these Ryu figures come with. All right, and here we have the Ryu figures with all of their accessories out, and this is probably what's going to set them apart from the Ken figures the most. So we're just going to go ahead and take a look at what each one comes with. A little bug there. Get out of there. Get out. So starting with the SOTA, I'm just going to go ahead and say right off the bat, I think SOTA might have my favorite accessories. So starting off, we'll just go ahead and look at the big one. We've got his travel bag. This is like, I really like Street Fighter II, the animated movie, and I love the idea of Ryu just being this wandering martial artist, and he just kind of has, all he has in the world is just this bag of stuff. So I love this bag. I think it's pretty well detailed. It's got a bit of a blue tint to it, if you can tell there, some shading, and it's got some little seams sculpted in, and it's got a real string, which is nice. So I love having this accessory. I have my SOTA Ryu on display with this bag. I just love this. So this might actually be my favorite accessory. And then we're going to go ahead and talk about this alternate head. I didn't love it at first, but oddly it's grown on me. As far as like battle faces go, I think I prefer yelling heads over gritted teeth heads, and I really like this. I maybe don't love how big the eyebrows are here necessarily, but I just love the yelling look, and you can see how well his eyes are painted in there. I've got the little glimmer in his eye, and everything is well done here. I love how long his little headbands are too. It's kind of exaggerated, and I really like the look of that. And then he has my favorite, I guess, open hands. These could be used as Hadouken hands, but they're kind of just like these wide splayed out hands that it could be Hadouken hands, it could be martial arts hands. You could say the same thing about the others, but I just like the way that these look. You can see the detail in them with the finger wrinkling and the fingernails there, and that all looks good. You can even see the little seams in the way that the strap across his hand comes. So I like these a whole lot. SOTA might have my favorite spread, not necessarily because he has the most or maybe even has the best. I just like what he does have, I like the selection and how it's executed. So I love looking at that. We're just going to go with the big ones first. So looking at Jada, he comes with this Hadouken effect part. And one thing about it is like it's really like round shaped, like really big and thick. I don't know if I like the idea or the look of that as much as maybe we'll look at the Storm Arena, but like just like a more kind of sleeker shot. But I mean, it's called a fireball, so I guess it should take a more round shape. I don't know. I'd have to look at Street Fighter 2 to see how it looks. But on the inside, you can see the hands that are sculpted in there, which is a really nice little effect. You wouldn't really be able to tell from the side, but if you were having him firing it right at you, looking at him on the shelf, you can see the hands, and it's a nice dark blue that I think looks pretty nice, translucent, and it's kind of got a little rubbery plastic type deal that it's kind of made out of. And then you get the little stand that holds it up, and that's adjustable, the height, so you can do with that what you want. And now I'm having a hard time finding there it is. I have a lot of these little stands from the Jada figures. That might not be the right one. Next, we have, this is probably my least favorite head of the three. We've got his gritted teeth, angry head, and I don't know. I don't love the look of this. One thing that I'm noticing on this head is that the hair looks like more of a lighter brown on this alternate head than it does on the regular head. The regular head almost kind of looks more black, and then this is kind of more brown. So I don't know if the cartoony thing really serves the look of these figures too well, especially with this head. It just doesn't look that great. They sculpted the bandana to go out sideways. It's not adjustable. It doesn't rotate or anything. This is just how it's permanently sculpted, which works for a battle. Like you would think it would be kind of blowing in the wind a certain kind of way. The mouth is really exaggerated with the teeth. I don't know if I love that. And it kind of makes like his hair, I don't know. I just don't like the way it looks necessarily. So there we have that. And then we've got his Hadouken hands that I think work well enough. They're not as well detailed as far as like the fingers go or anything as the SOTA, but it does have some nice texturing on the glove there. And that works well enough. Looking now at the Storm Arena, we've got this fireball effect piece. And this is what I mean. Like I like the sleeker, slimmer kind of fireball. And this is kind of a more translucent, even more so, almost transparent plastic versus the other one, lighter blue, obviously. And this separates if you want to do that. I'm not really sure what that achieves by doing that. I guess the different, like, maybe this would be like a light punch fireball and this would be a heavy punch fireball. I don't know. But you can do that if you want to. So looks nice. Next, have a look at his gritted teeth alternate head. And I think this obviously looks very nice. Got some extra paint detail in the mouth, and the eyes are fairly well done. I like the way, I'll talk about this on the other head too. The hair, I like the way the hair is done. It like comes out over his head, and there's kind of like a gap in between the hair and the face. Like the headband is doing its job. It's keeping his hair kind of off his face. So I like that. And then we have his headband, which is pegged in and rotatable. This is actually an extra headband. He comes with two headband pieces, I guess, in case one breaks or whatever. So this looks nice. We'll talk more about what I think about the heads. Sorry about that. When we look at the figures themselves. Next up, we'll talk about his Hadouken hands. These are my least favorite Hadouken hands. You can see, I talked about it on Ken. He's got like this kind of fat palm look to it that is not ideal in my opinion. It makes it look kind of silly. You can't really tell from the front, but from the side, let's just go ahead and get, because I didn't do this. You can see like the difference there. And then you can see obviously the Jada kind of looks more like an actual hand So I don't know what happened here. It's made out of a softer plastic, so the fingers are nice and pliable, and it makes it easier for switching out. And you can see some little detailing in the fingers there. And then lastly, he also comes with a figure stand and also these little pieces to hold up the effect part. Check out my Dan and Charlie videos to hear me talk about the figure stands. And he comes, this is a reissue, but he does come with the clear clamp on the inside there too. That breaks really easily, so be careful about that. And I don't know if I said lastly already. If I did, I didn't mean it. He comes with this backdrop, which is this nice cliffside with some trees and I guess a temple or a castle in the back. So beautiful, looks really nice. Jada has a backdrop too, but I ended up throwing it out. So now that we've taken a look at the accessories, we'll take a look at some height and scaling. All right, we've got the accessories put away and we've got the Ryus out. I'm going to get the tape measure and we are going to get height measurement. So SOTA Toys Ryu comes at just beneath 6 inches. Jada Toys comes about right at 6 inches. And Storm Arena comes right below 6 inches. So I would say, yeah, I would put Jada as the tallest and the SOTA as the shortest. For our first height comparison, here we have the Storm Arena Kin Masters and the SOTA Toys Kin Masters. I set them between the other lines so you could get an idea of aesthetics and height comparison across lines. Obviously, the Alpha and the Alpha figures depict a particular version of Ryu and Kin. So you have to think about, well, technically this Ryu doesn't go with this Kin, and this Ryu doesn't go with this Kin, and this Ryu doesn't go with this Kin. The SOTA figures are kind of more generic. Like, they could be anything. They can be 2, they could be 3 or 4 if you really wanted to fudge it that way. So just something to think about. All right, and here we've got the Jada Toys Street Fighter 2 Kin next to the SOTA in the Storm Arena so that you can see that. I'm glad I finally have all of my figures from all the lines, because in my Kin comparison, we didn't get to have this Ryu to stand them all up against. So glad we have it. Upon further consideration, I believe that the SOTA is the tallest figure of the 3. Here they are next to the Jada Toys Akuma, and the SOTA figure is a bit taller, actually. And obviously this Jada Akuma is going to be bigger than the Jada Ryu, and the Jada Ryu and the Storm Arena are kind of close in size, so he's bigger than this guy. We're going to go ahead and switch this figure out. There is that. I do apologize for the lighting. The sun kind of went away, but I think it's starting to come back out, so that might help a little bit. Here we've got the SOTA Toys Sagat standing between these guys. I know you probably already know, maybe, that I've already done a Sagat comparison, so we've seen all these, but just in case you haven't seen the Sagat video, we're going to take a look at all of them as well. Here, we're going to go ahead and take this guy out and stick the SOTA Toys in there. Yeah, this guy's absolutely huge, and that's great. Next up, here we have the Jada Toys Sagat standing next to the SOTA in the Storm Arena. We're going to pull this guy out. And then here's the proper Ryu for the Sagat. There's the Jada. And lastly, for the Sagats, here we have the Storm Arena figure. Take this guy out. Stick this guy in. These are the 2 that go together, in case you don't know. And so now we've looked at all of the Sagats. Next up, I figured I would throw the big bad of the series, M. Bison, in there. So that is the SOTA Toys M. Bison next to the Jada and the Storm Arena. And take this guy out. And here he is next to the SOTA, the proper Ryu for this figure. And here we have the Jada Toys M. Bison. I've already spoken about, I don't necessarily love the proportions of this guy versus other figures. I think I've said that every time he's made an appearance in a video. But there you have that. And we'll go ahead and change this guy out for this guy, which is the proper Ryu for this M. Bison. So there you have that. For a Marvel vs. Capcom comparison, we're taking a look at the Marvel Legends X-Men 97 Cyclops. I figured this would be a good comparison because they're kind of like most of the MVC iconography involves Ryu and Cyclops like shaking hands or dabbing up or something. So I figured I would go ahead and bring this guy in instead of Captain America. We're going to take the Jada out and put the Storm Arena in. And so there you have that. And lastly, here we have the DC Universe Classics, The Question, standing next to the Jada and the SOTA. Bloop. And there is Storm Arena. All right, finally we can take a look at all three figures up close. We're going to start off by taking a look at the SOTA Toys Ryu. So, aesthetically, I feel like this guy, he could be your anything Ryu. He kind of has, the red bandana, which would imply like Street Fighter 2, but then also the bandana is kind of stylized with how long it is. On top of him having kind of the brown, straighter hair, almost gives off Street Fighter Alpha vibes. So getting up close, I think my biggest complaint with this Ryu figure is that it doesn't really look like Ryu to me. It kind of just looks like, first of all, he doesn't look like a Japanese guy. He looks like a white dude. It kind of looks like a white dude dressed up as Ryu for Halloween. But I still like the look of this guy overall. I do think the head, for what it is done pretty nicely. Obviously, I talked about the paint detail already. The eyes are nicely done, and he's got some nice pink to his lips. His hair is well sculpted, and I don't think there's any shading in the hair or anything like that, but I do think he looks nice and heroic. He looks like a main character. Looking down at the gi, I do like the gi and how it's done. I'll say the sleeves, the SOTA figures kind of went for a more realistic look, but like with the way the sleeves are torn, it's almost like torn in this perfect kind of way. It looks like maybe somebody took scissors to cut the sleeves off to make it look torn, if you know what I mean. It doesn't look like they were actually torn off. But it still comes together nicely. He's got a bit of a blue tint to some different shaded areas on him. My guy came pre-owned, so he's a bit scuffed up. Something I do like is the stitching across the front of the gi that comes across and down the sides. It looks nice. I like how the gi is kind of bunched up at the bottom towards the belt. I think that represents some of the artwork fairly well, and it allows for more practical articulation because this guy doesn't have as soft a gi as the other figures. Looking at beneath, one thing I didn't really love about the SOTA figures that kind of has grown on me is the striations in the chest. It doesn't look completely right to me. I think they're really deep in there. It kind of looks more like scars or something, but I've gotten used to it, and in certain lighting it does look pretty nice. Looking at the arms, we've got these ball shoulders just with some lines sculpted into them, and then we've got some arms that the muscle groups are nicely detailed. We've got like a full bicep with a single jointed elbow. Down here we've got his gloves that are well detailed. We haven't looked at his fist hands. He's got the wrinkles in there and the fingernails again. His fist kind of makes a weird shape. It doesn't make like a punching fist. It's kind of got more like this versus something like where you'd punch somebody with a fist like this. So, and they did that with all of the SOTA figures from that original line. If you had noticed on the Ken and the M. Bison earlier, you may have noticed that. Looking down at the belt, mine's got a little paint scratched off there. But going around, I mean, it's a belt. One thing that is interesting, you can barely tell, they sculpted the kanji, I think that's the term, the characters on his belt there. They didn't paint it gold like the Jada figure did. We'll take a look at that later. But it's sculpted in there. It's there. Looking down at the pants here, you can see some more of that blue shading going down to the feet. This guy's got the most exaggerated proportions. He's got the bigger hands and the bigger feet that Street Fighter is kind of known for. And then it's kind of got that same clean tear look that these have down here with the pants. And then we've got our really detailed SOTA feet that I bring up every single time. I'm not weird, I promise. At least not about feet. So you can see all that detail there. So overall, SOTA's very good at getting the little things. Taking a look at the Jada Toys Ryu. This one, I really like SOTA's alternate yelling head, and I really like this figure's just regular head. I don't know why. It is a bit cartoony. I think what I like the most about it is I think it captures the character. It has a certain sternness to it, and it looks like a Japanese guy, I would say. So I think I do like this figure's head the most. And so that's something to set it apart from the Ken video. I like the Storm Arena heads the most for the Ken, but I like this Jada Ryu's head the most between these three. We can see the hair. The hair actually does have some different color to it. It is a lot darker than his other head, which had more brown hair. This is kind of black with some more brown highlights in it. We've got a brighter red bandana, a lot shorter. And we got that angrier kind of look versus the SOTA, which is kind of just like almost a pleasant face. You can take that as you will. You may like the angrier look, or you may like the more just kinder face. We can see the eyes in there painted well. We've got a big frown there. So we've got all that. Looking down at the gi, the tears, you could probably say are a bit more realistic. They're more like random looking, but it's kind of not as jagged as the other two. It's not as sharp. I don't know how to explain. It looks more like it's ripped, like realistically probably. We can see on the gi, it's got a nice texture to it that gives it some more realism thanks to digital sculpting, modern action figure methods. We've got some, I guess, stitching on the sides that come down here as well. And we have got his belt. And if you can tell, there's some purple in there. This guy's belt peels paint so easily. You can see some of where the white is coming through there. It's really a big issue. I don't hear many reviewers mention it when they talk about this guy, but I've seen some Reddit posts because I had to look it up. And his hair has the same problem for some people. Thankfully, my Ryu's hair does not peel paint, but his belt does. And so the purple is me coloring it in, which does not look very good. Here down we have the kanji here, the characters, and it's painted in a nice bright gold that looks nice. It's painted cleanly, looks good. It's not sculpted like the SOTA, but it's painted, it's more prominent, it looks nice. Looking at the body beneath, he's kind of got the same kind of striations. He's got a bit of a darker shading in the muscles there, and it looks kind of more, it looks more realistic than the SOTA. It's not as deeply sculpted. The arms do look worse though. You can see how it just looks like a big part of his arm was bitten out to allow for more articulation. So the bicep tapers off really steeply, which I don't think is necessary. I think companies are starting to figure out how to have a nice full bicep and still get plenty of range. The shoulders on this guy, they're not very prominent. The muscles don't look too great. The arms look really skinny if you're looking at him front ways, and then his body looks really thick. So it doesn't give him the best look proportionally, but you can still see we've got some muscles sculpted in there and some painted shading and some veins and everything. Texture on the gloves that's not there on the SOTA. The hands are a little bit less detailed, and the size of the hands and the feet is a little bit less exaggerated versus the SOTA. Moving down, he's also got shading. He's got some like black, grayish shading in some areas, if you can tell, in his pants. Moving down, we've got just kind of some more texturing, and the feet are not as well detailed. I'd say that the elephant in the room for this guy, I didn't mention it first, is the orangeness of the skin. It does not look great. If you look at pictures of Ryu from Street Fighter 2, he is much more pale versus this orange. And then if you look at some recolors of this guy, like the Evil Ryu and some color variants, he's got the more natural looking skin tone that makes him look so much better. So another thing to talk about, this is a Street Fighter 2 Ryu, but in Street Fighter 2, at no point in the game does he have red gloves. He has brown gloves. In some of the Street Fighter 2 artwork, he does have the red gloves, but in the game, he has the brown gloves. So I think if they really wanted to capture the Street Fighter 2 look, they would have given him more pale skin, probably some lighter brown hair, but I do like the black and some brown gloves. But overall, he still looks really nice. So there we have that. Looking now at the Storm Arena figure, we're just going to go ahead and start with the head. I would say it's not my least favorite heads out of the three of them, but I don't really love, he kind of just looks like a generic anime guy. He doesn't really look like Ryu to me. And I mean, that's fine. I feel like the Street Fighter character designs are more defined by like what they're wearing or if they have a crazy hairstyle, and Ryu doesn't have any of that other than his gi. Different artists draw the characters very differently, and their looks vary across the games to where they look just like completely different characters wearing the same clothes. So I don't take it that hard, but I feel like honestly, like if you look at like the Jada Alpha Ryu that's still in development, that's going to come out sometime within the next year, hopefully. It looks like they picked a piece of artwork and they tried to capture that versus this where they just kind of gave him a generic look, in my opinion. But I mean, for what it is, the head sculpt is still very nicely done. It's nicely painted. Everything is clean there. Again, I like the hair, how it comes off of the head separately. And then it kind of casts a shadow on his face too. So I do like that. I mean, it's well executed for what it is. Looking down at the body, this has my favorite tears in the gi. I would say it's more jagged, but it's also more random looking. So I think that found the best balance between the two. I like the look of that. And then we've got the same texturing, not the same texturing, but texturing like the Jada figure has. But this might have the least detailed gi out of the three figures. Jada's had more prominent, I don't even know what you would call these, seams, folds. And the SOTA looked the best with the gi, in my opinion. This guy's he's kind of got some shading in there. It's kind of more of a blue tint to it, just in general, and then kind of some more darker shading in some of the crevices you might be able to tell. Like you can tell on his back there. And you can tell the difference in the whites between the gi and the headband. There, the headband is kind of a more stark white, and then the gi is kind of more bluish. The shoulders are a lot more prominent. They're bigger, and they come out more, which looks nice. They've got some detailed sculpting in the muscles. Everything looks a lot more defined, which I like. His chest is like almost kind of perfectly square, which doesn't always look totally right, but it still looks pretty good. And I think they did a better job at kind of maintaining the fullness of the bicep while giving him that double jointed range. We can still see a lot of muscle definition in there, and there is some shading in there as well. One thing I haven't really mentioned about the Storm Arena figures, particularly the Shotos, Ryu, and Ken and Dan, they almost kind of have a bit of a pencil neck. Like their shoulders are really broad, but I mean their necks are kind of skinny. If you look at the Jada, I don't know, he kind of has a bit of a thicker neck. So I don't know. It doesn't kill the look of the figure or anything. This is probably, in my opinion, the best looking of the three that we've looked at. Going down to the hands, the texturing is there, but it's not as stark, I guess, as you could use that word. And the hands have some sculpted detail in the fingers and the nails there. And he makes a proper fist. His belt doesn't peel paint, which is nice. And then the pants are the pants. One thing I like about this guy is they kind of gave him more shape through the pants. They taper at the knee pants come down and taper at the knee and then kind of flare back out, versus like the Jada where it kind of just comes straight down like tubes. And I guess the SOTA as well does the same thing. And then the tears look fine there, and we got his Storm Arena feet. So I would say that this one's probably got the best look to him overall, if you asked me. Maybe just a bit generic though, but still looks really nice. All right, we're gonna take a look at how these guys pose, starting with the SOTA Toys Ryu. The head is on a double ball peg. They hadn't really perfected it yet, but he gets a little bit of tilt there, which is nice. He gets, so you can kind of do that a little bit. He looks up, not much, looks down a bit more. So it moves smoothly, but you know, it doesn't get the best range. Ball shoulders here. He can raise his arms pretty much all the way. Well, obviously not all the way up, but a fair distance there. We've got our rotation. We've got a bicep swivel. We have a single jointed elbow that hits about 90. That looks pretty good. We've got our swivel and hinge, and the design of it isn't great, but it's a bit covered up by the cuff of the glove. So we have that. Beneath the gi, we have an ab crunch, and I mentioned how it bunches up and it makes room down there for him to be able to use it. And it is soft, but it's not as soft as the Jada or the Storm Arena. So he crunches that far forward, which isn't great. He crunches back a fair bit. So if you want him to look up, you're gonna have to crunch him back, rely on the crunch more than the head. But that works. He's got a waist swivel. I'm going to be careful down here with the legs. If you watched my Sagat video, if you're familiar with the saga, Mr. Ryu's hips broke and his legs fell out. And so I was thankfully able to push them back together and stick a little bit of glue in there. So hopefully it's not going to come apart on me again, but I'm going to be a bit more careful. He's got ball hips. Dang it. Oh, no. Oh, why? Oh, I shouldn't have done it. I knew that was going to happen. Maybe the heat kind of melted the hips a little bit. Oh, so he gets out that far to the side. Oh, no, and I was going to take pictures after. Oh, and he gets that far forward. This makes me so sad. This hurts my soul. He has a thigh swivel. This one's a bit stuck, but he's got it there. He's got, dang it, double jointed knees that get plenty of range. It's really sharp, the edges of the knees, at least coming here. So it doesn't look that great, but it kind of rounds off here a little bit more. So the knees are okay looking. Down here, we've got a hinge at the feet. He points his toe down that much, points it up that much, and he's got his SOTA foot rotation that we've discussed a few times. That looks all right from some angles and then not great from others. And then we've got a toe hinge that is pretty jagged there. That doesn't look all that nice, but it's there. They've got it. Would I say that the SOTA figures are ahead of their time for articulation? They were doing the same thing Toy Biz was doing with their Marvel Legends, except they gave single jointed elbows instead of doubles. And so we have that. Dang. Probably no pictures today for this guy. What a bummer. Okay. Be careful with your SOTA figures, people. Looking now at the Jada, we've got a double ball peg and a neck joint, so he's going to get a lot of tilt there. He's going to look up nicely enough. Look down even better. rotation and whatnot. We've got our shoulders that go up right at about 90, maybe a little past. We got our rotation, got our bicep swivel. We're gonna look at, he's got butterfly joints beneath the gi here that is covered up by the gi, so that works nicely. He come this far forward. So that's about as close as he's gonna get for crossover, which should work well enough. And going back, he goes back pretty nicely, I would say. So, got our bicep swivel. I don't know if I said that already. Got our double jointed elbows that get all the range you could possibly want because of how they cut some out of the bicep. So they sacrificed aesthetics for range a little bit. I've mentioned this before, I think on Ken, he's got a drop down wrist. So if you're messing around with these Jada figures, you might know that like the wrist hand kind of pops out a bit. That is I believe, to allow for more range there. So that's nice of them to think about us that way, because that's pretty neat. So if you're messing around with your Jada, just because the wrist pops out a bit, that doesn't mean it's gonna come out. Beneath, we got a nice soft gi, and we've got ball pegs in the torso and going down into the hips. So leaning that far forward, this is what we're working with here. Pretty good, pretty good. Leaning that far back, very nice. When we get the Storm Arena out, we will compare ranges there. Going out to the side, I'm gonna remember to get out to the side for this video. Works well enough. Looking down at the hips, we have got practically perfect splits. Crazy, they had this figured out on their first figure in this line, past 90. The hips don't have any drop down, which is good, in my opinion. It overcomplicates things for no reason. We've got our die cut here, and it's sculpted nice and flush. Got double jointed knees that get that amount of range. Got a cut beneath the pant leg, points the toe that far forward, that far up. We've got about 90 on that pivot there, and no toe joint. That would be later on before they would incorporate that. So Jada obviously poses a lot more nicely than the SOTA. There's about 20 years difference between the two figures. Looking now at the Storm Arena, double ball peg head and neck like the Jada. Gets that amount of tilt there. Looks down, not as well. Okay. Looks up better though. He looks up the best out of all of them. And probably, I would say, probably gets the best tilt as well. Looking at the shoulders, bringing them out. He gets about 90, and then his butterfly goes all the directions. It's like gets that rotation there. So with all of that there, he'll get right at above 90, about the same level as the Jada. We've got our rotation. We've got our soft chest. So let's see how that works for crossover. Right there, he could touch his hands together if you wanted him to. You can see how much that gapping that creates. So be smart with your photography. Here we've got our bicep swivel, and I didn't look at how far back it went. I apologize. Nothing crazy, but it's there. Bicep swivel, as I may have mentioned already. Double jointed elbows, and I feel like it does a better job of preserving the aesthetic. It does get a little bit less range, but I think that's necessary. This is plenty of range and still gets to keep some fullness in the bicep. As far as the look of the elbow goes, it's got like these lips that aren't ideal. It's not the best looking thing in the world, but it's okay. We've got ball, peg, hinge, wrists, so you can see all the range that gets there. And these are really easy to pop off, so be careful. It doesn't really get much back. It doesn't have the drop down wrists like the Jada does, but we can change that over and get like a vertical hinge as well. Looking at the diaphragm, he's got a bit of a different situation going on. He's got the top joint is a ball peg and the bottom joint is a ball peg that plugs into a little ab crunch, like an upside down ab crunch like Hasbro's been doing on the Marvel Legends these past years. So we're just going to go ahead and bend this guy over. That's what he gets. I'm incorporating both joints into that. A little bit more there. Let's go ahead and break the Jada out. See what we got. See what we're... If you've seen the Ken video, you already know how this is going to go. Yeah. That's better. That's better than the Jada. Let's bring this guy up and pull him back. You can see that ab crunch in there. So yeah, very nice. Side to side, he gets... Oh, I'm sorry about that. He might get more than the Jada. Might get more. It's close. It's close. Due to the nature of the ball peg going into the ab crunch, I think it kind of... They gave it a little less space because the ab crunch piece, it goes up into the ab crunch piece and it's a bit smaller, so they didn't give a bigger ball to maybe allow for more room. Looking down at the hips, we've got drop down hips. Not necessary, but he can kick right at above 90. Let's look at Jada, who has no drop down. I mean, pretty close, pretty close. We got our full splits. Works nicely enough. I voiced this with Ken and Dan. I guess it was a QC issue. My Ken and my Dan, their hips get stuck. I guess they weren't lubed well enough at the factory. I don't know. So maybe I need to just fix that myself. But their hips get stuck. I have not had that problem with this Ryu, thankfully. The Ken was from the original batch of the Kens. This is a reissue of Ryu, and I think Dan is also from the original batch, so maybe they fixed that. Got our thigh swivel, flush with the leg, hardly visible at all. Looks nice. I wish they would stop moving away from that. We've got our double jointed knee that gets just perfectly all the range there. And the knee looks a bit better. Like the elbow got really lippy, as you can tell, but the knee looks all right. Looks all right. We've got our rotation there. Ball hinge, feet, points all the way down. That's how far it went up, about 90 on that pivot. And we've got our toe joint, which separates. It doesn't look great. Let me show you how a toe joint should be done. In my opinion, at least, we're going to look at the Jada Toys Sagat. As soon as, I think this is the first figure they did with the toe joint, and they got it right, in my opinion. You can see there's no separation of pieces in the foot. It's just perfectly round there and flush, and it looks nice. You can kind of see it doesn't look the best. You can see the chunk missing out of his feet. So, but that's just all being nitpicky. But when the figures are as high quality as these, and there's not really much you can improve, I mean, the little things are things that we can point out. So, overall, these are all three pretty great figures. Talking about availability, right now, the Storm Arena Ryu is in stock at the Big Bad Toy Store. They've got some reissue shipments in, so all those scalpers who have been selling these Ryu and Kens for the past year for $100 are out of luck now. Thankfully, that time is over. So I would highly recommend picking up the Storm Arena Ryu, and the Jada Toys Ryu is nice as well. He's widely available. You can get him at BBTS. You can find him at Walmart. You can probably find him at Target. You can find him at GameStop. You can find him at Amazon. You can find the Jada Ryu anywhere. Storm Arena, you're probably only going to find him at Big Bad Toy Store. And then SOTA, you're going to have to go to the secondhand market. I got mine on Mercari, I believe. And I got mine for a good deal. I got mine SOTA figure for about $30, but he can go anywhere from 40 to 60 loose. And in the package, upwards of 180 to 100. But if you're interested in the SOTA Ryu, he's a nice piece as well. Talking about the Storm Arena figures, on my Sagat video, kind viewer left a comment talking about how the Storm Arena figures, some of them have a QC issue where the plastic is not very high quality, and places like their knees are starting to discolor really quickly. And so that might be how Storm Arena has been able to push out such high quality for such a good price. So I would just be aware of that. I would do your own research when it comes to that. You can definitely find Reddit posts of people posting that they kept their figures out of the sunlight, curtains drawn, and they still got discoloration. Thankfully, I haven't had that issue, but that is something you might want to research and consider on your own. I think all three figures are worth owning. I'm thankful to own all three of them. I'm thankful that the Storm Arena Ryu is available for pickup again. He will come in at about, he might be at $35 now on Big Bad Toy Store. Originally when these guys came out, they were like 26. Now they're up to about 35. The Jada, you can probably pick him up for about 30, and those originally were like 24, 25 when those first came out. So overall, all three are fun figures. All three are worth owning. SOTA is a good piece of action figure history. Storm Arena is great quality, and Jada is widely available and also great quality. So I'm not going to announce a winner here. I'll let you decide that on your own. All three are fun figures. So I appreciate you watching. I hope this video was helpful in some kind of way, maybe helping you decide what you want to pick up. I hope I gave some kind of insight that maybe nobody else has. I don't think that there's a comparison video like this anywhere else. I don't think you're going to find this type of video anywhere else. So I'm trying to give something original, something new, something that I would have wanted to see. I would want to sit down and watch an hour-long video comparing three different Street Fighter lines. So maybe you don't, maybe that's not your thing. But again, I'm just doing this because I enjoy it. So I appreciate you watching. Leave any feedback you may have in the comments. If you would do that, I would appreciate it. Go ahead and check out my series of shorts that I'm doing every day, where I look at one figure from my collection every single day until I've looked at everything I've owned. I did miss a couple days ago. For the first time, I missed, I think, like day 33 or 34. I'm thankful I even made it that far, but I'm going to try not to make that mistake again. You know, life just happens. But again, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.